2025 was absolutely insane for gaming. We got amazing sequels like Silksong and just some absolutely unexpected gems like Expedition 33. In general, this was a truly fantastic year. And while 2024 is pretty much unbeatable for me boss-wise, having my favorite in Mesmer and some of the best bosses I've ever seen in Wukong, 2025 was nothing short of spectacular as well. We had bosses in games that pushed the mechanics way further than I ever anticipated, boss rosters with insane quality and quantity, and bosses with presentations so spectacular it made my jaw drop. And in this video I want to talk about my 10 favorite bosses from this year. I will also later give a few honorable mentions for every last entry per game, just to honor a few more bosses, because there are way more than 10 bosses I would love to mention. I value every single aspect in a boss, and I will also talk about all of them. As a rule of thumb, I can tell you I usually value the whole package of a boss more than individual aspects. However, individual aspects also can make for an outstanding boss, so it's not limited by this. Also, even though this is a list, it's not really a ranking. In general, I don't really want to do much ranking stuff in the future, and I honestly don't really care. Just want to list 10 absolutely incredible bosses I want to talk about. If you enjoy this kind of content and are also thrilled for content in 2026, please be sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. It helps out the channel massively and I would truly appreciate it. And now, without further ado, let's jump into the list with the number 10 spot. Healster the Night Lord is not a boss that reinvents the wheel or is some crazy boss revolution by From Software standards, but it's just so incredibly well executed. Everyone knows they're really goated at making bosses like this, these nobody knights, and Healster is a super great example and execution of one. The presentation for this boss is genuinely just stellar. The visuals are fascinating and the spectacle is all-time great. The fight starting with Healster dragging the sword through the big dune where you fight all the Night Lords is a very striking visual and very memorable. At first, he's just a super weak enemy that uses some basic slashes and nothing special. Once you cut down this form though, he reveals what he truly is. The Night Lord to rule the night. And he's absolutely badass. Besides his absolutely fantastic design and his great music, he has some great animations and now adds a way better flow. He has some night attacks, some massive AoEs, and just some stuff that needs to be avoided with very strict but rewarding timing. However, where the fight ascends to amazing tier is the phase 3. Healster flies up and literally cuts the sky, imbuing himself with one of the elements of the Night Lord you defeated and using that against you. It's not only looking like absolute cinema, it also feels like playing it. You literally fight one of the strongest sources in any FromSoft game and it just really feels climactic as hell. Of course, my favorite way to play Night Rain is in trios, so him switching targets is the biggest difficulty in this. You always have to be on your toes and be careful with what he's doing. However, even with all of this, I still could see this not being in the top 10 bosses of this year, but what really solidifies it for me is the depth. Like Midra, this boss doesn't have the most complex and hard moveset ever created, but damn is it deep. There are so many jumps, and when I mean so many, I really mean so many. You can jump above like nearly every attack. It feels absolutely great and I love it. But not only that, there are also a lot of low profiles, strafes, just everything if you love deep maxing fights in Elden Ring. Overall, just a fantastic experience, awesome climactic final boss, especially with the wilder ending, and a super fun fight. It's probably not a hot take to have this boss in the top 10 of the year if you played Night Rain. Honestly, I think it might be a hot take to not have him higher. Again, in this case, some might be surprised that this boss is only so low, but remember, it's not really a ranking and these bosses are all top tier. And yes, this also goes for the first sinner from Silksong. I've already been gushing about it in my Silksong ranking video and I will gladly repeat it. This boss is a fan favorite for a reason. It is absolutely fantastic in a lot of ways, especially the flow. The flow being Silksong's biggest strength in combat in general, and the first sinner is just fantastic at it. I feel like there are the top 3 genuinely fantastic bosses in Silksong that pretty much everyone agrees are the 3 best in some order. And while First Sinner only lands in the 3rd spot for me, I absolutely understand having her at 1, because she adds something really cool. She adds a lot of overlaps. She has her massive Weaver Needles covering big parts of the screen. Then there are her own attacks that mix with them pretty much perfectly. And in phase 3 she even adds the spell that is reminiscent of the pure Vestal attack from Hollow Knight. It's all just a wonderful fight where pretty much all of the mechanics work together to create some fascinating and nail-biting scenarios. This fight probably never gets boring, and while I personally wish that it had slightly more HP, because you can really find this fight super late and be overgeared, besides that, this fight is pretty much flawless. Everything about it just feels fantastic and I absolutely love it. It's so good. As someone who didn't play a turn-based game in her whole life, well, maybe besides Angry Birds Epic, I didn't expect a boss from a genre that wasn't familiar to me at all to be one of the greatest bosses of this year. But here we are now, and absolutely well deserved. Overall, Expedition 33 is an absolute gem and deserves all the love it gets, and what especially captured my heart boss-wise was Simon with the title The Divergent Star. Of course, I need to make the distinction here. I'm not talking about the newly added super boss, because I didn't fight him yet. I'm talking about the story Simon, the super boss, the hidden boss of Act 3, whatever you want to call it. I think pretty much everything about this boss is perfect. He's one of the hardest bosses of all time that pulls some dirty tricks to defeat you, but you can learn him very well and defeat him to perfection. So he's not like bullshit or anything, at least not in the traditional sense. The bosses in Expedition are overall pretty fun and I like them. However, mechanically I would say only Simon is truly really great, because damn, he is really great. But let's start how you discover Simon. You descend to the deepest part of the map, to the Abyss, which is very reminiscent of FromSoft with Artorias and stuff, and you find this guy just sitting there. After you engage him, he starts fighting you and teaches you the base mechanics of the fight, however nothing too difficult. But after you beat this phase, a very FromSoft reminiscent cutscene plays where he basically gets buffed up, and I think if you saw it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I can play a little bit of it. It's just super FromSoft-esque and I absolutely love it. It feels like a very nice homage, just wonderful. And now Simon actually has few notable changes. First, for the base combos, he now adds green moonlight follow-ups with his sword. So you always need to keep those in mind during the combos to deflect once more. And he has two attacks that are probably my favorite two attacks in the game to parry. Sword of Lumiere, which is just fantastic. It's telegraphed wonderfully, it looks awesome and it's so fun to deflect. And then Lightspeed, which is super cruel, but also telegraphed fairly with him moving the sword. These two are my favorite combos in the game to deflect. Overall, phase 2 is stunning, not only mechanically, but also presentation wise. Genuinely one of the most stunning bosses. It's so incredible. And don't even let me get started on the music, man. We Lost is genuinely one of the greatest tracks for any video game ever. It's so good. But after this, where you think that you got this fight and you can defeat him, Simon probably does the most controversial and dirty trick in the whole game. No matter what you have, he will wipe your entire party. And now you have to use the mechanic where you send in your last backup party and finish the fight off with that. I kinda like this now because it kinda incentivizes you to build your other characters, but I can definitely see someone finding this frustrating if you didn't level up your other characters. With that said though, this phase does not only do that, for every of the combos that added a moonlight before, now gets also one red sword follow-up, so there are always two. So an attack that before did one slash now does two, and vice versa. And yes, there is one combo that actually consists of 18 parries now, which is just crazy. Overall, it's just a fantastic fight in every single way. The aura is there, the hype is there, the beautiful music is there, and really good mechanics are there. It's just a wonderful fight and I absolutely love it. Before I go out here, I want to give a short spoiler warning because I'm gonna talk about the final boss of the game in a bit, because in my opinion, this boss deserves an honorable mention. You have been warned. So I want to shout out Renoir 3, or the curator version, just the final boss of the game. It's absolutely stunning in every single way. The presentation, the moments, the story beats tied to it, and it's just wonderful. However, at the end, I decided to go with Simon. Libra Creature of Night is my third favorite boss in Night Rain and also my favorite boss of the base game lineup. He has a lot of things going for him, starting with his very unique and memorable personality, which still might be the best, though with DLC I'm not quite sure. But this fight is very unique in a sense. You walk into this arena that is by now pretty familiar to you, and instead of being ambushed by a large monstrosity, you can take a bargain with the boss. However, this guy does not want you to win, so every single deal struck with him, of course, holds a little downside. These are false blessings. They're just wonderful. Sometimes you get a deal that is worthwhile, but there will always be a little catch. For example, taking resistance against his madness stuff is profitable, however he will take a cut of your stamina, which can be detrimental. This mechanic is really good and it's absolutely memorable. His voice lines are great and he's just a very cool boss. In general, coolness factor is very much given with this guy. And while he doesn't have mega big nukes that annihilate the whole arena, I love his presentation in a more grounded way. But not only that, I also think for multiplayer, base game wise, this is by far their best moveset. Libra has everything. He has big AoEs, spells that zone you, and can even switch to an aggressive melee, plus arena-wide stuff with like his madness attacks. He has pretty much everything to keep players in mind, and the overlap plus the externals plus it being able to retarget into players makes this one of the most unpredictable and scary fights at first, but once you learn it, there is a really sensible and good rhythm to it. Of course, you can destroy him very quickly once you know what you're doing, but if you can't, or if you are in the depths, man, this guy is rough. At first, he's decently chill and you get familiar with his moveset, but once he meditates and buffs himself, he really unleashes the beast. Now all his spells are buffed pretty much and it's super difficult. It's a rough fight, but it's so fun. And his music is phenomenal, like for every single Night Lord. Now, before I move on to the next spot, let me make this abundantly clear. When I'm talking about Libra, I'm talking about Libra, Creature of Night, the base boss. I'm not talking about Everdark Libra, because Everdark Libra is honestly a disappointing boss that I really tried to like, but unfortunately with it being centered around the worst FromSoft gimmick, NPC fights, which I detest in boss fights, yeah, he's not getting a pass. I can see why someone would like it. I think experiencing him would be fine, but this guy being able to appear in Deep of Night is just pure garbage and I absolutely hate it. You Everdark Libra, but man, I love base Libra. It's a fantastic boss and just well deserved to be placed here. Before I get into the super deserved Carmelita praise session, I really need to re-emphasize that the order of these placements really doesn't matter, because Carmelita is an absolutely top tier boss and genuinely just fantastic in every way. She could easily be number 1, 2 or something in the spot and I wouldn't bet an eye. She is that good. But yeah, Carmelita is the queen of the Scar tribe and one of the 4 hard bosses in Silksong's Act 3, of course had big shoes to fill. And well, as apparent by the community feedback, she absolutely did. People loved this boss, and for a very good reason. Her design is genuinely fantastic, her animations are absolutely lovely, the build up towards her is just great, and she has some fantastic lore. It's all in all just a great boss in every single way. However, the best part about this boss is the fight itself, which I will present in a very unique way. I did this in my Silksong boss ranking video and I really think it brings across the point for this boss the best it can. I'm just gonna let the best part of this fight unfold without editing anything, so you can just see what insanity this is. Because phase 3 of Carmelita, the peak of the fight, is the part where Carmelita literally doesn't stop attacking. She chains all her attacks together, sometimes with follow-ups, sometimes without them. It feels like a dance that could go on forever, and it makes me sad to defeat her, not only because of the lore, but also because I wanted to go even longer. Phase 1 does a great job of introducing you to the moves of this deadly dance, because if you won't master them, you won't get anywhere here. And phase 2 then adds a few more moves and makes it slightly more challenging. In phase 3, as I mentioned, all of this is brought together and Carmelita tests truly everything. Your reflexes and your combat prowess at these final stages of the game. It's a fantastically placed boss and it's just incredible gameplay wise and in every single way as well. I absolutely adore Scar Singer Carmelita, and also big shout out to the OST. It's just incredible. Of course, I've come to expect this from Larkin and Hollow Knight games, but still, I need to shout it out. And I even loved once you stagger Carmelita, the singing performance stops for a bit, because yes, at the end of the day, this isn't just a battle. This is a performance for her entire tribe. It's wonderful. I love it. After Elden Ring's rather disappointing roster of gank bosses, Night Rain came around the corner and said, well, we're gonna redeem this shit. And this is Everdark Noster. First impressions are important, as we all know. And there aren't many bosses that made a first impression as strong as Everdark Noster. This fight was genuinely just one of the coolest things I've ever seen when I first did it. And it holds up, but especially the first time, this was just a magical experience. I remember just being completely overwhelmed and sawing at how insanely cool this idea idea and concept is. This boss has everything. He has crowd control, great positioning requirements, team coordination, and some insanely cool gimmicks that are so satisfying to figure out. He's a perfect Night Rain boss, and I just don't understand what the issue with him is. But now, let's go into phase 1. Phase 1 of Everdark Noster is phase 2 of Base Noster, which is phenomenal. I love this phase. They two fuse together and are basically like a scorpion tank with a moth magic missile projectile spammer. It's really cool and it's really satisfying to figure out. Their synced attacks and their special attacks, plus the coordination during it is great. However, after you fail this, a third entity spawns, Animus, which is another flying moth, this time in super cool red, and now you have to drain this boss's health to defeat them. This restructures the phase 1 of the Noster fight. However, there are two changes. Firstly, Animus will sometimes be doing attacks of his own, which are super important to figure out, otherwise they will melt you. And the second, way bigger change, after you down either Fortis or Noster, Animus will possess them, take them over, and basically make you fight a buffed version. And these enhancements are just crazy. For example, Noster's nice little cute rain that is pretty easy to avoid turns into a pretty brutal stamina management task. And Fortis, oh my god, this guy just adds crazy AoE follow-ups to everything. There is just so much strategy involved and I just absolutely love it. It's needless to say, but Night Rain presentation is fantastic and this boss is it covered. It's one of the coolest experiences FromSoft has crafted yet and I love it. Music is fantastic, their designs are just so good and I can't get enough of it. This boss deserves a lot more praise because it's a unique and super cool take on a gank boss and I absolutely love it. I think this boss is genuinely phenomenal. With all the praise for Night Rain though, my pick for my favorite boss in this game goes to Stragus, the Draglord. There are a lot of reasons why I absolutely adore this angry pile of corpses that wants to smash the knight. There is his fantastic design, his super badass animations and the way he fights, and possibly my favorite FromSoft drag they ever made. It's so incredibly good. But the reason why I picked him is because of the experience as a whole. There is not this one quality where he shines, because everything works together in harmony to create this masterpiece of a fight. The atmosphere is wonderful. The stage is set beautifully. The visuals are really great, mostly. And it's a really damn great multiplayer boss. It has all the sauce all the bosses had before, switching targets randomly, AoEs, positioning, just overall a great fight. The first half of the fight teaches you the basic combos and actually does something interesting with a horde of enemies. All the failed bosses they had during the years finally paid off because I think the enemies here genuinely work really well. I think they are a great part of the fight and I really like them. They zone you and you have to pay attention to them, but they aren't obnoxious or anything. I like it. Phase 2, however, ramps up the cinema by a lot. He starts screaming and summoning the massive pillars he now uses to chase you down and attack you with. It's absolute cinema and I can't get enough of it. He is super badass, his attacks are fantastic, and while some are very hard to avoid, overall he is not the hardest boss in the game. But he's always fun. This is just a fantastic climax to Night Rain, which most likely will be the last final boss we get if we don't get the Everdark Holster version. Please FromSoft, we need this. There is nothing to hate, but so much to love. Draglord Stragus is a fantastic boss and easily in my top 10 FromSoft bosses. It's also my favorite boss in Night Rain and just an incredible boss in this wonderful year. Before I move on, I want to mention one more boss, and that would be Harmonia. It's one of the greatest From Software gank bosses they ever made, and it's just so unique and fun. It's definitely fantastic and was really close getting there, but I think I'd slightly prefer Holster, so I think I'd give him the spot. But absolutely deserves an honorable mention because the boss is amazing. Ozma from First Berserker Kazan is a boss that is king in nearly every single category and one of the greatest bosses ever. Which is shocking, because despite Kazan having overall a pretty great boss roster, nothing is even close to his quality. Even my second favorite boss in the game, Reese, is just barely like low S. Meanwhile, Ozma is definitely like a top 15 boss of all time. He is that incredible. I unfortunately though have one issue with Kazan as a whole, and sadly it also reflects in Ozma. The story was a massive letdown for me, and I ranted about this a lot in my Kazan ranking video, but yeah, it impacted it in a big way, which is a shame because everything else in this fight is just spectacular. Visually, it's eye candy. Music, really amazing stuff. And the mechanics, oh my god, the mechanics. I think from all the bosses I have fought, this guy might have the most moves I've ever seen. Phase 1 starts as a mage phase, and alongside Libra, this is the best mage boss I've ever fought. It's absolutely phenomenal. He has so many attacks you have to avoid in different ways. He beautifully incorporates parries into it, and the flow of the fight is just cool. There are also some big attacks you need to focus on, and it's also spectacular. It's a great phase and I really do love it. However, this phase doesn't even compare to the peak that is phase 2. His attacks are unbelievably fun to dodge or deflect, which he forces you to do both. Kazan's hybrid combat nature is wonderful, and he actually demands this, and it's really good. In general, as a final test in Kazan, this is just an incredible boss. He is also incredibly hard, so expect to get your butt kicked. But after avoiding some of his attacks, he does kind of like an intermission phase where you need to avoid some projectiles and dodge afterwards. It's really good and I like it. However, maybe it kind of slows down the pace on replays. With that said though, I still really like it. After this, he starts doing even harder attacks and the phase goes on. Shockingly, after this insanely long and hard phase, he has a secret phase 3. And overall, it's the best phase. He has the most amount of mix-ups, best extensions, and the attacks just get the hardest. Unfortunately, this is kind of a victory lap phase. The only thing you need to do is break his posture 3 times and do 3 riposts. These are scripted and it's just a very short phase, which is a shame because it's my favorite. It's a fantastic experience and the most fun endurance battle I have ever had in a game. It's a thrilling and cinematic experience and so incredibly varied because there are so many moves. I swear there are like 40 plus attacks this guy has. It's insane. Overall, Kazan is a great game, but this guy alone makes the game worth it for me. Which might be a spicy take, but I think this boss is that good. There is so much to replay in the future and I for sure will. How would you even end one of the greatest games ever created? I have no idea, but apparently Team Cherry does, because Lost Lace is an absolute masterpiece of a boss. Lace is your rival throughout the entire game, and the final encounter with her is my absolute favorite. She is now at her strongest, insanely cool, but there is so much more. Her story is absolutely captivating, the build-up is fantastic throughout the whole game, just alone descending into the deep abyss after acquiring the Ever Blossom is one of the best moments in gaming. The battle starts with phase 1, and as most good Silksong bosses, it usually teaches you the basics of the fight. You need to grasp this really quickly, otherwise you will just die, and die. She uses the moveset skeleton of the Lace bosses that came before. She has a few more extensions and mix-ups now. Phase 2 is where the fight gets really peak. She now adds the void attacks that have been introduced in the Act 3 enemies, which once again, by engaging with the new content in Act 3, prepares you for this fight without having to do anything, which is great game design in my opinion. And the amazing thing about these is that they actually work perfectly in tandem and super well with their moveset, which is surprising, but a surprise that is very welcome. It's so fun and some of these combinations are downright juicy. It's so addicting. After you get the classic fake out that probably didn't fake out anyone, you're suddenly charged by massive waves of void. Whatever this is, it looks really cool. It's not hard to avoid, but it just feels incredible. In her final phase, she buffs up and uses the final version of her iconic area denial move, which is also my favorite iteration of it and the most fun to dodge. Lost Lace is a fantastic boss. Presentation is all-time great, the music is one of my favorites ever, and overall Lost Lace is not only one of the greatest bosses of the year, it's also my favorite 2D boss ever and in my top 10 bosses. It's fantastic and I absolutely adore it. So with this, I would be super content to end this year on such a high note, but somehow there was one surprise that I just didn't expect. And that someone is no one less than our KINO, the blood artist from the Lies of P Overture DLC. Lies of P is an amazing game, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love it and I've been loving it ever since it came out. However, the boss roster as a whole is only good, maybe great. It has some really good bosses, but also some bosses that just aren't insane. So it really surprises me when suddenly Round 8 releases one of the greatest bosses that is nearly above every single FromSoft boss, bar like 3 of them. I have never expected this in any world, but it happened and I'm so glad it did. I tip my Jack the Ripper head to you round 8. You guys can absolutely cook. The wonderfully executed build up throughout the whole DLC of course helps to sell the stage. Once you reach him, you know it is going to be a very serious battle, because yes, it is. The Overture story is great and I was greatly engaged during my playthrough, so of course the climax was well worth it. His voice acting is absolutely incredible and stunning. Probably my favorite performance in Lies of P.
Romeo's on the clock, and you appear to be nothing but talk.
His voice can go from creepy to downright disturbing, especially the messages he leaves while he carves up something. It's just terrifying. His design is also just nightmare fuel, like oh my god. After the fantastic intro, you start to fight this mad puppet. And let me tell you, phase 1 is already fantastic. He has so many mix-ups and extenders, he punishes you for healing up close, and he's relentless. It's absolutely badass and I love his fighting style. This is already one of the greatest phases in the whole game. It's permanent flow and it's absolutely incredible. After beating this, you get one of the most over-the-top phase transformations I've ever seen and I'm all for it. After exploding and burning up, he rises, now with most of his body being destroyed, flowing epic anime hair, a wonderful crimson cloak, and just insane weaponry like long blades and saws. This design is one of the greatest I've ever seen and I could gush about it for years. It's so good. It starts with a massive onslaught combo that demands you combining sprinting, dodging, and deflecting to get the most efficient result. I really love it. After this, you get to fight one of the most punishing fights I have ever had. He uses the saws and some of his attacks to apply break on you, which decreases the healing you get from your pulse cells. He has relentless combos, some of the hardest attacks ever, some insane delays on the grab, which is punishing crazy damage grab. He has some attacks where he leaves AoEs after the need to be dodged, and his fury attacks are all insanely tough but also manageable. He also has this attack where he leaves the saw blades that need to be deflected or avoided, and it's such a hard move. I absolutely struggle with it to this day. It's a super brutal phase, but also one of the most fun ones ever. It's just impossible to not have fun with it. KINO surpassed all of the Lies of P bosses by a landslide. However, I still want to give a little shout out to Markiona. This is a fantastic gank and a very cool and interesting take on it. It's an amazing fight, however living up to KINO, the absolute GOAT, is pretty much impossible.
It was fun while it lasted.
And that was my list. I'm sorry it took a good while to release, and even though we already have 2026, I hope you still liked it. I am really glad the video where I talked about gaming as a whole aged so well, because honestly, gaming is better than ever. Sure, there are some issues in the industries and some things that suck, but there are also so many incredible games coming out, and I'm just so excited for what the future has in store for us. So go out and discover those amazing games, because if you look in the right spots, you might discover a gem. But now please let me know in the comments, who are your favorite bosses, who are your least favorites, just everything that has to do with bosses, gaming and stuff in 2025. Please let me know what you think about this wonderful year, and I hope you will be here for content in the next year as well. With all that said, Happy New Year to all of you, and cheers!